I do have the problem that Anthony was talking about where my torso is like a little bit shorter, but my limbs are longer. So if I probably like sat down next to somebody.
So you're Bella Hadid.
Bella Hadid, I'm not blonde. Oh, no, wait, Bella Hadid is
She's
the dark
brunette.
haired one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm brunette.
All right. What's up, guys?
So,
So
how was your dinner?
It was good.
Good, good.
It's good.
But that rice is vegan.
And cruelty-free.
Yeah. Uh-huh. All right. Ask questions. It's time. Someone had a question, right?
It was
Nick
Nicholas?
did, but he had to go get an oil change.
Oh, no. What was the question?
I have no idea.
You can tell us.
Question about rent.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nicholas. I thought like he was gonna be here. I just left.
But he'll probably be back.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. Anyway, anyone else have? So this is the technique that I was talking about, where I start like a mile away.
Mm.
But you started out painting, you never did like a line art or anything like that?
No, I did not. I did not.
That makes sense.
I could do relatively decent line art, but yeah, but I know there's people out there that are clearly better.
Yeah, I'm like
masters at it.
10 times better at line art than actual like just painting like that. Just like
Yeah,
off the cuff.
most artists are, because it's usually how everyone starts. I mean, when I was a kid, obviously, like everyone draws. I don't know too many kids. Not to say that they don't exist, but I just don't know any who just start up blocking out shapes. You know, like they just go straight to line, right? So, yeah, I mean, I didn't have any preconceived notions. Like, I wasn't attached to anything.
Yeah.
So.
The only problem with Photoshop I have with line art is my lines aren't nearly as like crisp as I can make them like on traditional, just pen and paper.
Sure.
And then like when I go into like coloring, I have a hard time making, like without spending way too much time just like masking it out, you know, making like the mask perfect around the line art.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
That's a problem I don't understand entirely.
I was like, I'm waiting for the insight of the master.
Answers. I know this much is that if you have a Cintiq, it makes it easier.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, so something that you might want to investigate. It's expensive, but I mean, it's something will solve this problem from what I heard.
Have you ever used one?
Yeah, I used it, but I'm a painter, so I had one too. I owned one. I got rid of it because I realized I'm a painter and I do better at painting than I do with lines.
Yeah. Was it not the same painting, like the same feeling you get just with the regular tablet?
It's not, no.
Interesting.
Yeah, because when you paint, like it feels, you kind of want to be disconnected a bit. Think about like traditional painters, right? They have like their pen or their brush like in front of them, and some of them actually hold the brush from the back of the brush. They don't actually hold it like you imagine when you're holding a pencil, you're holding it almost by the tip, right?
Actually, I don't do that anymore. After I spent an hour studying Scott Robertson.
Sure, that's good. But my point is like you think traditionally, you use your wrists and stuff like that, and your fingers, right, as a drawer. But as a painter, like you use like your forearms and your shoulders, right? And so with painting, it's kind of like I don't have like they do that because they want to see the whole painting too, so they can see it from afar, you know. And so for me, that's kind of what's happened. I'm able to see the painting from afar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whenever I don't zoom in as much too, my monitor is about 2.5 feet away from my head. You know what I mean? It's pretty far away,
Mhm.
right? Where if I had a Cintiq, I would actually like also like zoom in with my body, and so you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
I would actually like kneel down or like not kneel, bend over, you know,
mhm.
or heel over. Or what is it? Yeah, bend over. I guess is a better word. Like I'll like get my face closer to the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's a drawing thing. I don't know why. It's just you just do it unless you teach yourself out of it.
Mhm.
And so just stuff like just little things like that, and then you realize, yeah, it's just better just to paint with a tablet because it just feels like you're painting.
Yeah, I could kind of imagine that. I still have to use a Cintiq because because there's a 1-to-1 ratio like closer from like traditional with the Cintiq than there is like the Intuos, which I'm still trying to get used to. That getting over that like the that input of your hand to the screen, you know?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's just all tools, right?
Yeah.
And so like I just know like people who like to draw with line prefer using son freaking out. Prefer using the Cintiq, and that makes sense. I don't argue that. Um,
Yeah, maybe I'm not broke.
yeah, I mean, when you can, you should. And
Yeah.
you might love it. You might change everything.
Oh man.
Otherwise, just get used to it. Because I know plenty of people who can draw really good lines without Cintiq.
Yeah, just that, because like any other thing besides like with like modeling, like sculpting and ZBrush is like comes so naturally to me. But for some reason, it's just painting that I still struggle with, even
Yeah.
though I've probably practiced more than sculpting.
Well, you might just be naturally a sculptor.
Yeah,
You just accept it. Accept your fate.
just accept quit.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like you could still do concept art. It'll
Yeah,
just be 3D mostly.
yeah, that's the thing I was struggling with was like trying to figure out if I should just because with 3D there's so much more I have to learn as well.
I see.
So it's just more of a personal problem, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just the problem is you just got to pick something.
Yeah. Because the thing was, I didn't want to just do like something that just came easy to me because I like the challenge, you know.
Sure. But you see the conundrum you're in though. Like you're on one hand you're like why is it so hard? And on the other
Yeah.
hand you're like I like when things are hard. So you
Yeah.
had to choose what point of view you actually prefer. You know?
Bipolar.
Yeah, exactly. You can't have both. You can't be like, oh, I want things to it comes so naturally to me, but I like a challenge. It's like, okay, you're arguing with yourself now. There's no there's nothing I could say or do. You got to
Yeah.
very similar to what I was telling Samar. You got to just pick. That's it. Make a very firm decision and just stick with it for a while. And then when you become pretty good at it, then you can have more affirmation to decide whether you don't like it or not. Because then now you're at a position where you're a lot more objective versus subjective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because right now you're just entirely subjective. You have really there's no insight, enough insight for you to really make an executive decision. But I usually
Yeah.
tell people just make an executive decision. Just do it.
Regardless.
Just go. Yeah, just go. You have plenty of time to switch. Like you could spend 5 years doing the 2D thing and then say, you know what, I want to change. That's
Oh yeah,
fine.
definitely.
That's totally a thing, and people do it all the time.
And then I also felt like if I had both, like if I generalize myself and become at least like really good, either like have one strong suit and be decent at another, that like it'd be
Yeah,
easier just to get a job, you
totally.
know?
Well, I wouldn't worry so much about the job part. I would worry
Uh,
more about the satisfaction. Like, what do you prefer doing
yeah.
professionally? Because you said it right now. like being good at one thing, but then maybe that's the thing. You're not entirely right. So just do it. Just pick it. Go for it. I believe in you.
I
That looks dope. Also, sorry, I'm having car problems.
Oh, you're back. Nicholas is back.
Yeah, sorry, dude.
No, it's
My
all good.
filter is not coming off.
It's all
Huh?
good. I thought you left for good too. I was like, oh man, I didn't even answer his question. He had like totally had a question. So go for it. What's your question, brother?
I don't remember.
These guys.
I think it
You said something about rendering. That's all I heard.
yeah, something about your homework.
Yeah, I can't remember, man.
So
Everyone's trying to help him, and he's still like, no.
I don't know. So I don't, give a fuck, man.
No, I get that too, where it's just like, you have a million questions, but then when the time comes where it's like, got any questions? Fuck. I don't know.
Fucking sweet, though,
Forgot.
dude.
Wait, what? What'd you say?
How come you haven't been using your blendy thing?
Oh, I'm
The
trying.
mixer?
Yeah, I'm trying the process I was talking about, painting from a mile away. Also, super low res, so it's like super low res.
Oh dang, man.
So
Wait, 300 is low resolution?
Mm-hmm.
Do
300.
you see any benefit to what you're doing right
Yeah, dude, totally. Like I'm like totally getting tons of detail
now?
without actually detailing. Like I'm seeing a lot of good information. And then
Well, I have
I can come in here with the mixer brush and start doing some shenanigans and get it to like I'm thinking I can get this to at least 70% blended, and then I'll start painting back into it. Oh, yeah, look at that. This is cool.
What's it between the mixer and just like the smudge?
The mixer you can color pick, so you can actually put some color to your mixing. See that?
What?
Yeah.
Dope.
Pretty good. You
Are you
know.
hulking out over there?
Yeah. Let me
Jeez.
teach. Let me teach you guys something. Let me
Cool.
teach you guys something. Try shit out. You know, like you know, it's been there this whole time. You know, you don't have to wait for me to show it to you. You know,
I only just started using the smudge brush now, so I figured out you could change the brush.
yeah. I mean, someone's got to pioneer, I guess. I'm the pioneer of everything. And no one's willing to explore beyond the tools that they have. All these buttons here, what do they do? Who cares? Let's move on with my life.
Use a smudge brush. I'm just gonna use mixer. Wait, so what is
Well,
the
there's all
history
kinds
tool
of
do?
cool. What's the history tool? Oh my
Yeah,
god.
what does that do?
Well, the history tool is exactly as it sounds. It goes back in history.
Well,
Right?
No, but
Like
you go far enough back.
one of my
That's what
favorite
it's-
tools is the spot healing tool. The
yeah, what does
healing
that do?
brush. Contour aware is like OP. It's like crazy OP.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you. I'm just gonna have you
What?
guys do it yourself. Um,
Oh,
but
yeah, content. That's the one you use to like if you like just erase a part of the picture, you can use content aware and it'll like fill it up with like
oh yeah,
whatever.
experiment
Found
with it.
it.
It's crazy. Watch. Try like just take this and just move it down here and just hit enter and see what happens. Right? And you'll be shocked.
What happens?
I'm
Look,
shocked.
it moved.
Oh!
Blended it in there.
Usually feels like
What
big
the hell?
All right, let's see if I can make like another arm. Let's see if I can do that. Let's see if Photoshop has the skills.
He's like Photoshop stunting.
That can be really intensive on the computer, depending on the resolution you're using.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's see if we can get
Wait,
this.
so what would the difference be if it was like lasso, then copy?
Well, it's just trying to match it and blend it in. So it made it really bizarre.
Okay.
It didn't really do a good job.
Usually,
It's
like-
really good for like if you want to move a person from one spot to
Yeah.
another spot in a photo. It's really good for
Oh
Mm.
yeah, it like fills in the background. A lot of photo editors use it.
Oh, then screw the magic wand. Don't need that shit anymore.
No, Magic Wand's still good. Wait, hold on just a second. What? I love you too, sweetheart. I love you too, boo-boo. Oh, you guys love me? Kung Fu! Kung Fu! Kung Fu! No, I'm teaching, guys. All right. Love you. Thank you for the love, though. Appreciate it.
He needs glowing cyan eyes. Yeah.
What?
The dude.
No.
Or like the red blood.
No.
What?
Oh, yeah.
What else is a really epic tool that people just never use?
Okay.
Oh, here's a good one. This one's a really good one.
You're right.
So, I like to brag that if Photoshop was still a $1,000 software, which it isn't, I mean, I guess it still can be, but if Photoshop was like $1,000 software, then I like to brag that I know like $700 to $850 worth of Photoshop. You know what I mean? Like I know some Photoshop. But it's not anymore. So the $49 subscription, I know $40 worth of Photoshop a month worth of knowledge. Whenever they update too, I like look and read and see if they updated anything meaningful to what I do. The other percentage that I don't know has a lot to do with like the Photoshop part of Photoshop. Actually, like photo manipulating. There's a lot of like camera raw stuff that I don't really know or care to know, but it's fine. So let's say I have this object, right? And it's zipping around, like this thing is flying around and I want to put a blur on it. Well, I can do a few things. One of the best things we can do is convert it for smart filter. What does that mean? Well, it means I can go in here and I can add details. It's very much like a smart object. All right. Save, and then it makes that change, right? But yeah, but with filters, meaning I can go to any of these filters and add, and the most important ones are stuff like motion blur, right? So you can put like some motion blur up in this B, and this guy's like, whoa, what is that? Why is it moving so fast, right?
I'll use that.
But then I can go back in here and like change the complete color of this.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
And then go in here and then be like purple dot, save it, and then bam.
Oh, it's like a symbol. Okay.
Like in Flash. That works. And you can also erase or put it back on. It's masked.
Oh man, that's so cool.
Oh man, indeed. I use this when I do really large illustrations that have multiple characters or props or things. And I want some characters to be motion blurred and others not. But I also want to have complete control over the resolution, which allows you to do. Because the resolution can be kept in that PSB file. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. It is cool. You're cool.
Thanks.
How often do you work non-destructive, like in the industry, versus like
pretty consistently.
personal work? Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's I'm not gonna let my painting just be so confident that I know what their opinion's gonna be. Yeah, right. I'm pretty non-destructive when it comes to other people's opinions. When it comes to my own stuff, I'm super destructive. It doesn't matter. It's my right? Because it's like this is pretty like there's no layer management really. It's just when I make new layers, it's more like I'm gonna try some shit and maybe it's not gonna work out. And if it does, cool. But it's more like a history of this image more than it is like me changing dramatic things. If that makes sense, you know?
Oh, okay. So it's like you don't necessarily like mask off certain areas and work separately.
I just paint it. Go raw.
More of like the evolution of the painting.
Yeah,
the step.
I just paint into it. I just go for it. Yeah, exactly. I don't really. It doesn't matter to me because I know how to. I know what I like and I know what I don't like, kind of thing. You know. But I encourage usually my students to work non-destructively, unless you have a confidence system. You know, then yeah. I mean, or that could be your thing, but you know, just to answer that question like pretty firmly, working with clients, you should always be non-destructive. because they'll ask you for the damnedest of things. And if you're not prepared for those changes, then you're going to be screwed. You know,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to either
Mhm.
redo everything, or you're gonna have to make like some really bold changes that are gonna potentially destroy everything, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So for instance, like whenever I would do color keys, like let's imagine that this image had no lighting on this guy, and I wanted to um, do a light on top of him. Well, I would use a gradient map setting, and then I would go in here and then paint the lighting using this tool, or I would use color layers or whatever. Basically, I would mask and control everything pretty much, you know.
Hmm.
And then so then when
Mhm.
my boss is like, watch, I'll show you guys in just a second. Like if my boss is like, oh yeah, this is cool, but um, like maybe I started off with green, and he's like, cool, but I think it'd be better if it was like pink. All right, done. You know,
Uh-huh.
because it's all controlled. It's all like reasonable.
All right.
I'll separate the character from the background, from the foreground. Sometimes I'll separate different elements of the character. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It all depends on what I think may need to be changed. You know?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. I
very
mean,
rarely. Go ahead.
with layer management, don't I don't know. I've been struggling with just like having, even with like thumbnails, the opaqueness of the image can like, if there's certain parts of like the painting that's like transparent, it could f up the whole thing, you know?
Yeah. So you gotta just be better about not doing that.
Yeah.
That's why I have a brush that's completely opaque. You know?
Hmm.
So I can avoid such said problem that you've just
Is that pretty much it, the answer? Just work
be smart.
at
Yeah.
100% opacity?
Yeah, I mean, like that's really like you just gotta know why it sucks and what you can do in the future to prevent it.
Hmm.
You know, I can't solve all those issues. I have an answer for all certain types of problems. But
Uh-huh.
the best advice I can give you is just to pay attention to what happened. And the problem was that you were painting with a brush that had opacity to it,
Hmm.
and you weren't attentive because the background was a certain value or something. You didn't
Yeah.
realize that those values weren't committed to that actual thumbnail, right?
Hmm.
So maybe if you prefer drawing with like with an opacity brush, there's alternative solutions. Like one of them could be um, to change the background color consistently so you can spot that sooner.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like you just got to build patterns and habits that will allow you to make less of these mistakes. That's all.
Hmm.
And then over the years, you'll get better and better at it. That's why I still make the mistake of whenever I have lines, I'll paint on accident on the line layer, but it's
Yeah.
never worked that way. So it's like that's still something that's very common that commonly
Hmm.
happens to me. Yes. Any other questions?
Does Nicholas remember him?
Nope. He still changes oil.
Where is he? He has the ability to
I
be in class and change his oil. I guess he's on his phone. He must be on his phone.
Maybe
Oh,
he's
that's
in
so
his
cool.
car.
Yeah, I'm like, what? The beauty,
just
the beauty of the future, right? Like he's getting his oil
changes on his
changed,
desktop.
middle of the class.
He sends us Snapchats of oil change.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Thanks. Thanks, oil companies.
This is
Hashtag.
this is gross painting, but I love it.
It's cool. Reminds me of the character from Treasure Planet. The main character.
From what?
The main antagonist.
From
Treasure Planet.
Treasure Planet. No, that guy
Yeah.
had like a hook.
Yeah.
Like, he was like a half robot. It was like,
Yeah.
I don't see it. What the?
This looks
I
more
see
like
it.
Yeah, I see that more than the guy from Treasure Planet.
Maybe Ratchet and Clank. Jabba Hutt?
Kind of reminds me of Jabba. Or like
Yeah,
Cantina.
I was thinking that too.
Okay, I see it now.
I was thinking more of that too. In fact, I was just kind of engrossed with that idea. I just kept focusing on it.
Looks like he's had a rough day. To give him
Alright, so what do we
a glass of...
have here? Let's see.
Give him a glass of whiskey.
Yeah, a cigar. A death cigarette. Death stick. Yeah.
Let's smoke a blunt.
You gotta put some special effects on it. At least
I love special effects. Man.
I would love it if I was good at it.
No, I mean like I don't just mean like painting it. Like that's just the product.
In general.
That's just a product of my general love for special effects. Yeah. Like I love explosions, like a good explosion. I love good like CGI,
Oh man.
and like
I don't know.
I'm a big fan of it, man. Like I remember when I was watching Transformers 3, I think it was, and like I remember turning over to my friend, and I was just, I remember his reaction was like, you know,
Oh.
I remember turning to him and just looking at him like, I was like, dude, you understand that for the last half an hour to 45 minutes, it has been nonstop robots and explosions? And he was like, yeah, I know, it's so stupid. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. That never happens. It has been nonstop transforming robots and nonstop explosions for the last 30 to 45 minutes. Like, this is amazing. It's like,
Like,
and I was
like
like, you
if
don't
you
understand,
someone
man.
from-
You know how much
if you
money
took-
that costs? It costs so much money, right?
If you took someone from like the 1800s and just sat them down
Oh,
in like
dude.
a theater and showed them Transformers, their head would explode.
They would truly believe that Chicago was attacked by giant robots in an invasion. You know what I mean? Like, it was spectacular, man. I was in it, man. I loved every second of that movie.
I like special effects, and it has a place, but I have like a special affinity for practical, effects.
Oh yeah, I love all effects. There's a really funny Conan skit where they're like, some guy, one of his guests was there, and they were talking about internet spam, And he goes, yeah,
Oh.
internet spam, and I just hate all spam, right? And they're like laughing, like, yeah. And then he pulls out like a can of spam. He's like, but not all spam, right? And the guy's like, all spam, and he destroys it. But anyway, so that's how I feel about effects. Like, I love all effects, both practical, both special, especially when it's
I don't know.
really good. It has to clearly be good, because you can have bad
There's
practical
very-
effects, and you can have,
Yeah, there's very few special effects. It's still in that uncanny valley where it doesn't, like, you can tell it's not real,
nah, dude.
even though the amount of rendering is amazing, the amount of, like, particles and, like, simulated in the scene, it still, like, just throws me off, because I mean,
So check it out. Have you seen Mad Max, the
Yeah.
latest one? So people were
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
raving about the practical effects, but there was equal amount of visual effects as well.
oh yeah, definitely.
And that's the point that you're trying to make, is like it's the uncanny valley. The reality is, no, when they do a good job, you don't know that it's there.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I agree. Like, if you can tell, right? That's why like especially the first Transformers when they came out, like
Hmm.
it was hard pressed to tell You know, it was like,
Yeah.
yes, we know that those are clearly CGI. There's like no doubt there's like a team of people that made them in a computer, right?
Yeah.
But like you can't doubt that was like completely believable though, right? And
Definitely.
and like the same effect happened when when the Jurassic Park came out. Same thing, right? Like Jurassic Park came out. I remember I was like 10 years old. I remember saying like, I was thinking, they made real dinosaurs. Like there's real dinosaurs somewhere in this world. They made real dinosaurs. You know what I mean? Like there is no doubt in my mind there's some real dinosaurs running around this planet now. And they filmed them for this movie. You know? It was like that.
Yeah.
So I believed it so much. It was crazy. Um, and it's hard to do, man. It's really hard to especially do it like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, we were like that one discussion we had once where we were talking about like it's just film industry is not trying to make terrible movies. They're really not. They just a lot of people that have the money don't realize what makes good movies. That's the problem, And they
Yeah.
say, oh, we better put more money into explosions, but you can't just have explosions. They got to be good. Like you look at the Fast and the Furious, like they got a lot of good explosions, it's good like effects. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's why people go watch that crazy. Like I remember watching one of the trailers. I think it was the Furious Five, and you see Vin Diesel and Paul Walker drive a car off a cliff off of this like bridge, and they're just free falling, and I'm just like, I guess I have to watch this movie now, right? And I loved it, man. I was a big fan of that. You know,
I didn't watch that one. Damn.
yeah, it's pretty bad, but it's good
Was
at
that
the
the
same
one
time.
where Paul Walker's brother played Paul Walker?
And that's the
Or...
latest one. That's the one that just happened recently
Oh.
because of the casualty, because he died.
Yeah.
No, the one that I'm talking about was the one before, but the one that you're talking about is the one where they drive a car from building to building. I'm just like, I guess I gotta go watch this movie. I mean, it's funny because they know what kind of movie they are too. That's what's great. Like if they didn't know, like it would be one thing, but they totally know, and that's what makes it great. It's
Well,
like so much fun.
at first, it wasn't as ridiculous.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
still
totally.
trying to make a serious
Yeah,
movie, you know?
it's like the Expendables, like the first Expendables. Like there was like Sylvester Stallone was like, I don't see why people are getting upset about like,
Hmm.
and then the producers like, dude, they want it because you're getting all the like old school hardcore action heroes.
Yeah.
That's just gonna be what we need to do to keep making these movies and selling them, and that's what they did, and people
I
keep
think a
watching
more
it.
accurate comparison would be like the Saw franchise.
Oh, sorry, say it
Like
again.
at first, I think like a more accurate comparison would be the Saw franchise. Like at first they try to make like a
Yeah, same
serious
thing.
like
Yeah.
psychological thriller, and then it just became like torture porn, just ridiculous.
Yes, yes. You got to know what you're working with, and I think when you do that, you do a good job. That's the problem with Hollywood, and
Hmm.
sometimes they don't know, and when they do know, they like bring it home. That's why Adam Sandler keeps making movies, because
Oh,
he
geez.
knows exactly his audience, and it's hard for me to. I even potentially thought about this long and hard. I was like, man, he's still making movies. Like he must be making money off of these, and he is. I looked into it,
Hmm.
and I was like, what the hell? Because these are bad. And made me think like, wait, does that mean there's a few things that could be true? I don't want one of them to be true. One of the things is that maybe he's been making the same kind of movies, like he's never stopped, you know?
I don't know.
And he
Unshrunk
just
Love
got
was
older.
one.
He's just gotten older, and he just keeps making movies like this, you know? And it's just
Well, I
that we're
think
sick of it and we're old, but yet there's still an audience for that. Wait, hold on, my daughter's
Maybe
crying. Give me 1 second.
I think all right. I think like half of it is that, but half of it is that he just realizes he can make a ton of money just from making shit movies with a little effort.
yo, but like it really clicked in like Jack and Jill, that weird movie that never happened. Okay, so my theory is that he makes money not because of his viewers, but because of the advertisers, right? So like as long as he keeps like advertising through his movies, he makes money.
Yeah, I can see that.
So like he's not making a movie, he's making a giant long ad that never ends.
That happens with a lot of Hollywood movies these days.
No, but Jack and Jill is just like he wasn't high anymore. He just never gave a fuck anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, all right, this is Pepto-Bismol. This is
Well, dude, I mean, like,
Coca-Cola.
you're
This is
making
Dunkin'
that much
Donuts.
money, like, it's hard to say no. Sell your soul and just be like, fuck it.
Maybe he was running out of money. No one was like,
You think he's going broke? Conspiracy.
maybe.
I don't know.
Like,
I haven't done enough research into Adam Sandler's.
Adam Sandler is a conspiracy theory. He's a
I
giant
know
conspiracy.
there's like a YouTube video of like the conspiracy of Adam Sandler. Like that. That one was pretty funny. Have you seen that one?
Not yet, but it's the one where everyone thinks Avril Lavigne is dead.
No. Is that a recent one?
It was like last year. But really quick, it was like, yo, she could be dead.
Dude, I used to have the biggest crush on her. Jesus.
Freaking... I met her and she's like,
You met her?
really, yeah. She's really short.
Oh, dude, she's like perfect wife material.
Shorter than me. She's what?
Oh, really? How tall is she? She's like 4'8".
Yeah, I'm like, finally.
Yeah.
It can be taller than someone else. I'm so tired.
Oh, I gotta work in the morning.
I get to sleep in, finally.
Bleh.
But, yeah. Avril Lavigne is dead. It's just like a duplicate that's out there disguising herself as Avril Lavigne.
There's a lot of actors where like that just fell off, or like musicians and actors. They're just like, did they die? Like, what happened?
Like who?
Like Nelly.
Nelly Furtado?
Well, yeah, her too. What happened to Nelly? Oh, she dead.
She's like married. She's like a one-hit wonder, right?
Yeah.
Everyone thought Nelly was the rapper.
No, oh yeah, the rapper.
See? Oh yeah, the rapper.
That's what I was talking about at first.
Freaking thought Nelly Furtado.
She had that one song, that Promiscuous song. That was it.
Promiscuous girl, killing me.
Jesus.
Freaking. There was also like, yo, One Direction's pretty dead right now too.
Yeah, it's all about Zayn Malik.
One Direction's officially over. Bruno's gone. Lindsay's gone. What is this? Why is everyone leaving?
Alright, I'm back.
Better.
Everyone left.
Any questions?
It's just us now. Nicholas?
I don't know. I don't know. Still changes oil.
I'm here. I'm just muted.
Oh,
Oh,
Sure.
Cameron.
does Cam have a question?
Put you on the spot, bro. See what you got.
Why come?
Like, come.
I don't know what that means, but I'll ignore it.
Like Wacom tablet.
No,
I see.
I mean, I've hung out with some stupid people, but there was this dude I used to hang out with, where like not ironically, but he used to say "why come."
What?
He did a lot of drugs.
Rather than how come?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Oh, that's weird.
Unless it's like those people that like try to save as much time as possible. They go like, oh, let's blend the words together.
Yeah.
Dude, I mumble a lot because I'm too lazy to speak fluently.
You see, you're the issue. This is why there's sadness in the world, man. Because you mumble your words together. Also, because you haven't seen Hannibal.
I can
Friggin-
speak very articulately. Articulate. Articulate. That's a word.
Articulately.
Yeah, I said that.
See,
The
one
irony
fact,
of that
one
statement.
go.
Me fail English? That's impossible.
Good old Ralph.
Who learned you how to smoke?
Yeah. That's good. That's a good one. Oh, man. Anywho, yeah, this process is good, man. I like it. I think I'm going to keep practicing it.
Cool.
I was suspicious of it. I thought there might be some shenanigans, but I think I got
The
it.
zooming out process?
Yeah, starting from a mile away.
What's different that you can tell?
The results easier to get to. Like I get a bigger picture being told,
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's faster. Huh?
I would
I do
imagine
that.
like your zoom in so much more efficient too.
Yeah. Yeah. I usually never zoom in whenever I paint. Um, but I normally do it in black and white, which there's less things to worry about.
Mhm.
But I think zooming out entirely, like I just did, allows me to really control a lot more.
Mhm.
So I'm going to keep practicing it, get better at it.
That's cool. I usually do that for environments.
Yeah, I think that would work for that as well.
have you done any environments? Like, just test it out and see?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
How
only
you
done a
feel?
few professionally, but I'm not an environment guy, so. What'd you say?
How did you feel about it?
Oh,
You
that's
had no
cool.
idea.
No, it's fine. Like, when I want to start doing something, it has nothing to do with environments, that's all. Like, as
Oh.
soon as I start going, I'm like, character, or tumor monster. You know what I
You
mean?
know what flavor you like.
Yeah. And I just stick to it.
Pistachio.
Just try to master it. Pistachio's good.
Flavor.
So when you do you ever, I mean, I know maybe subconsciously you're at the point where you don't need to, but do you ever like map out like the perspective in any of your pictures?
No, because most characters you don't need to worry about perspective other than some basic understanding of it. It's not a real big
Yeah.
deal. Um, but my perspective isn't bad either because I've been doing it for so long. I can just see it a little
Yeah.
bit better. But I never truly practiced it in the traditional sense
Hmm.
because I never really needed to. For environments, what I usually do is rely on perspective grids and stuff like that. If I have something that's really in need of it, but I usually again just don't worry about it too much because again I don't
Yeah.
dabble in that noise.
You never do anything where you like want to do something really symmetrical and want to make it look accurate or as accurate as you can.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
but again, like when it comes to characters, it's not too difficult.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a more geometrical design,
Hmm.
because there's just less to worry about, just in general.
Yeah, I mean, you can, it's a lot easier to get away with like a more organic character
Uh-huh.
with cheating the perspective. I can see that.
Absolutely. If it's like super mechanical and functional, then I'll have to pull out the rulers, right?
Yeah.
But like if it's again even organic mechanical parts, again yeah, like you're right, it's just not too difficult. You
Hmm.
can faux a lot of the perspective.
Oh, cool. You never simplify the materials, do you?
Um, what do you mean? Elaborate.
Like, let's say you're painting feathers.
Uh-huh.
Got a million feathers to paint. You go like, fuck it, I'm gonna paint 3 and then simplify the
Oh yeah,
rest.
sure. Yeah, I do that all the time.
Like, okay,
Yeah, I try to be as smart as I possibly can whenever I work, especially
okay.
professionally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, you never like sit down and like literally paint every feather.
Nah. I mean, unless I really have to do something, but even then I try not to. I try to find ways to do it intelligently.
Okay.
Just get it done.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, this is pretty bizarre.
It's pretty cool. He still looks pretty sad to me.
Oh, he's absolutely sad. There's no doubt about that. No
I got a
question.
feeling there's so much sadness in the world. I understand.
All right. Any other questions before I call this Dunskies? Whoa!
I missed the last question, but I had a question about materials again.
Yeah, go for it.
When it comes to just using texture brushes, I mean, like there's certain materials that render a certain way, right? And like to get the most effective render, you use a certain brush. But like, where's like the line between like just being accurate or just hinting at it? Like, would you say would be
Yeah.
fine?
Yeah, so for me, I generally don't use too many like texture brushes
Hmm.
because of the fear of lack of control.
Yeah, that's a problem I have.
But generally speaking, yes, this is always like a better way to handle everything. You know, and texture brushes are a great tool, especially for like if you're doing environments. I'd argue that yes, texture brushes are almost essential because you're rendering hundreds of materials instead of like one or two, right,
Hmm.
or several. You know, several is manageable. You can do all those by hand if you needed to. Um, but for me, yeah, it's a matter of just thinking about the material overall, like what the objective is of that material. Is it supposed to be shiny? Is it supposed to be refractive? Is it
Hmm.
supposed to be subsurface? And I'll just paint it as so. And I just use the tools that I know that help me do that. I
Hmm.
do this thing where I think of the percentage of shininess. You know, I think of the percentage of see-through and the percentage of absorption. Basically, how much does it reflect, refract, or absorb?
So are you literally going to each material and looking up like the refraction index
No,
and being
no,
like,
no. I'm just like
I'm gonna
I,
do.
I guesstimate. I guesstimate. Right?
Yeah.
No, not that level.
Um, I have more of like an analysis. Some other guys are here, like Oleg.
Hmm.
Uh, here, wait. We got a link here just to like the art station, but it shows his process here in just like the one picture. And from about like the third, no, yeah, from at the bottom layer, the third to the fourth, where it goes to like more contrast and lighting. What kind of tips and like maybe ways of approaching could I go to efficiently get there in that change from like once he's defined forms and kind of like some suggested planes?
Which image?
That one.
Oh, I linked it in the meeting. Oh, right there, yeah, yeah. So it's like the bottom row. It's the one going from just like the suggestion, the far left, the suggestion of like just forms and planes and
Yeah.
minimal lighting, to then like that refined, like juicy kind of like lighting and contrasting kind of like texture emphasis.
Just time, dude.
Yeah,
More
yeah,
time. As you can tell, he just builds it, builds it, builds it. But like what I like to see that he does is that he gets all the information pretty much relatively solved way before he starts detailing. Like from here to here, like you know, you have you seen that like how to draw an owl? It starts with a circle and then it says owl, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like this is like how I feel like a lot of students are when they see this stuff. They see this image and then they see this, and it's just like what the right? Where
yeah,
like before it's like very clear, like you got the sketch, he starts blocking in the forms, he starts refining the lighting, he starts adding more of the detail, and then fully rendered thingy. And that's the part that I'm trying to explain. Like that's just the grind. You notice that there's no process in between because he was in it. He was in the render mode. You know what I mean? And that's a great way of analogizing this is the. Have you ever seen Rocky?
Uh,
I'm asking you.
Do I need a montage? Yeah.
Okay, so you've seen Rocky, right? So in the movie, there's a montage, right? But
Yeah.
before we get into the montage part, there's a moment where there's an actual story going on with him becoming potentially a person that's going to box one of the best boxers in the world, which was Apollo Creed, right? And up until that point, we were just getting his sob story, right? Like how he's just pretty down on his luck. Everyone treats him like garbage. You know what I mean? Um, hold on just a second. Um, yeah, everyone treats him like garbage, you know? And that all takes it over a span of you know, like a week or so, like that part of the movie, like the whole leading up to the before the official announcement of his fight, right? And then he has 6 months to train before the fight, and then guess what happens? Montage. And then there's like a montage of him training and running up the stairs. He could barely do it at first. He's punching the meat, like busting his hand up. People, yeah. And then eventually, he's like running up those stairs, like sprinting up them, you know, and able to punch that meat really hard. You know what I mean? And it's just like montage. That all happened in 6 months' time, you know, where everything else in the film could be packed in a week. Got it? But no one wants to sit and watch a 6 month long movie, you know? Like it's not going to be obviously to realistic standards because that's some bullshit. No one wants to sit down for that long, right? And that's how
We're
I
just
feel.
placing it at convenient times.
Yeah, because that's where it gets entertaining again. Yeah, because watching someone just train is boring. We show up to race day. When Usain Bolt's about to race, not when he's like spending the years training. We're watching him just running around for a little bit.
only born to casuals,
Yeah. No, it'll be boring to you too, man. Just sit there him watching him run for like half an hour straight. I'm sure you're gonna pick up your phone and look at it and play some Angry Birds. You're not gonna be riveted the whole time. I assure you. You know, it's just that's just how it is. So when you showed me that, like, yeah, I could see through it. I could see through the veil, right? It's like, oh, clearly just grinding. He's just sitting there and rendering. Like, see how far I've gotten just by sitting down and just rendering. There's no
Yeah.
illusion. But look, see, like, case in point. I started from here
Weird. Like,
to this. Like, where was the
oh,
between?
magic.
Right?
How do you do that?
And you guys saw it. And like when you're in it, you're not thinking about like I didn't do anything special between this point to this point, other than just render. That's all I did. There's no magic to it. I just was going to it, just defining what hasn't not been defined, changing brushes, switching it up. I'm not getting certain results. I'll switch it up until I get.
Defining.
Just defining and refining, defining and refining. And after you sent me that image, it made me think about the speculators. It made me think maybe I should use brushes like this.
Oh man, Oleg. I was just checking out the other day.
Yeah, and just get some texture in here somehow.
Oh, weird.
Because that's what reference does too. It gives you the standard of living.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm not going to do that, but I was just thinking about it after I saw that image. I was like, oh, damn, shit, that was good. you know?
That's where you tried it to see if you like it or not.
Yeah. He's someone that sings to my heart. He's a big fan of values, and he loves tumor monsters.
Oh man, tumor monsters.
Like that.
That's why I'm here.
He's even more tumor monstery than I am.
I actually like the bottom middle before the final render because it just has more contrast. Kind of gets muddy in the face, at least.
Yeah, he has more of a finished one. I think where he does a little bit more
Oh,
to
it is.
that.
Oh, okay.
I'm a big fan
Like
of
I
this
see
stuff.
how he was like, yeah, FXing it after that.
Anywho,
Anthony?
no.
No? Okay.
No.
Okay. Alright.
Go ahead.
You wanted me to render two characters as much as possible?
As humanly
Or
possible.
like,
Yes, ma'am.
okay,
Chase your
okay,
dreams.
cool,
Follow your heart.
definitely.
This guy's funny, dude.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Oleg, right? He's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of those. I like the one of Max Varian. Where he did, it's his ugly friend Max Varian. It's just like super rendered. Like it does show that like you like the power of like I guess knowing the forms and lighting because it doesn't need to be like a design that makes a lot of sense as long as he lights it with tutors and stuff.
Oh yeah. That's a topic that we can talk about a little bit, which is just I have to get going. I have to put the kids to bed. Um,
Yeah.
Oh,
which is just subject matter. I always encourage my students to uh, understand what they admire from particular artists. Because one artist might be really good at rendering but has really terrible design sensibility, but it's hard to see because you're so distracted by the awesome render, right? And so you have to be cautious of that. Like I love myself Oleg stuff, but only a handful of his stuff would I consider something that would think would be well designed. You know, because like that shark
Yeah.
dog is clearly just 80s. Like it's just, and it actually, if I were to, I could argue against myself. Really, it has a place somewhere, right? But like, it's clearly the love that I have for a lot of his stuff is mostly because of just the way he renders, right? It really is. It's just so,
Absolutely.
it's just unmatched in a lot of ways, right? Where you
That's what
can,
I was looking at.
yeah, where you can look at a different artist that might not render at all, like Paul Richards, but he has amazing design sensibility.
Oh, I love his blog.
Yeah, like
I
his
need to go
design
over it
sense
again.
is really good, you know? But he doesn't paint, you know? He doesn't paint. He just it's all just line drawings. But it's a good example of just like spectacular ability to design. Maybe not such a good ability at rendering, but that's okay. And again, it's one of those questions I ask myself: is well, what if you could have both? You know?
mm,
And it's hard to do
Why
both.
not?
I am not the best designer and I'm not the best renderer, but I am pretty good at both, you know? But there's people that are clearly better. Like I believe Oleg is way better than I am. There's no doubt in my mind, you know, when it comes to rendering. I can only think of like a few people that are truly great at both. One of them would be Jamie Jones. I think he's like really good at
Oh, Jimmy Johns.
Jimmy Jones. Yeah, Jamie Jones is really good. And then uh, Charlie Wen and Ryan Meinerding, those guys are freaking boss. Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
Marvel designers. Um,
Yeah.
I had to
So
live
much.
up to their standard when I was working at Sony because there's their paintings everywhere, and I was like, God damn it, you know. Um,
mm-hmm.
so yeah, it's just all about getting your getting your act together, though. Picking a side, Rennie.
Makes sense. Right,
I don't know what to choose.
All right,
Remy?
I'm done now.
Okay.
I choose not to choose. I don't know.
Enough of you. Enough of this. Choose one.
Oh, this is
Pick a side.
whoa.
Are you in Italy then this next week here?
I am, yes.
Ooh, have fun.
The
Yeah.
So much
blog game,
pizza.
the Snapchat.
I want. Oh no, you can't have pizza. Oh, okay.
I can have
Have
pizza just without the
pasta.
cheese. You can
Have
just eat
some
the
pasta.
cheeseless pizza
Oh yeah, how are you gonna eat there? You're gonna have
with the
some bread and
fork and spoon.
marinara sauce.
With
Bread and
wine.
wine.
I'm sure they have food that I can eat.
Oh, there is. There is.
Yeah,
Milk, rice.
they're very hybrid of the Mediterranean diet too. So
It's really good.
yeah, so it's not.
I recommend it. 10 out of 10.
I'm not too worried about it. What was I going to do? I was going to do something to this painting.
You said you were gonna keep rendering for another hour.
Oh no, I was gonna do a complete color shift just to see what it looked like. Yeah.
Ooh, blue
Do
stick.
you ever use the Control P sliders?
Yeah, I was just using those earlier, but I actually don't think I need them. That's how powerful this new process may be. I may never need a color balance again. All right, that's not true. All right, see you guys. You guys
Peace.
have a good week. Work really hard. Hang out with each other.
You
And
too.
I'll talk to
Happy
you guys very
Thanksgiving.
soon. Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Canada Thanksgiving.
Happy
Um,
Canada Thanksgiving.
That version.
I heard nothing. See you guys.
Happy Canada Thanksgiving.
Exactly. I'm like, what?
I
It's
heard
not November yet.
no. No, Canada didn't have Indians. Only we did. Only lived here.
Excuse me?
Native Americans only lived on the borders of the United States. They knew. They knew. Even the Native Americans. Oh, this
I
land
know
is
some people.
this
I
land
know
is
some
soiled.
people.
We cannot go to these lands. Why, little?
Canada's a concept.
Why little maple leaf?
History is just a concept anyways.
Yeah, this is the concept.
Canada's just a concept.
Everything's
It's
just a
imaginary.
See you guys. Have a good night.
Have a good
Peace.
time in Italy.
Thanks, guys. Peace.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you like the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.